What do you think? Is this going to work? This never happens when Chris Fix is doing it. Right, we're back inside because I think it's going to rain, so I'll do it inside just in case the rain starts. I've got it jacked up, stands and the wheel underneath just to make sure, just to be safe. It's jacked up both sides, but so the plan is to change the disc, change the pads, give it all a clean up. You can see how filthy and dirty it is. I need to change this as well on both sides. So I've still got a little bit of yellow paint on there, which is the manufacturer's mark. So it's still the original tie rod in, so that needs to come off and be replaced with the new one on both sides. Right, so let's crack on. Okay, so I've turned the steering wheel so the caliper's pointing out. The next task is to undo these two bolts. Right, I've done a lot of research, so hopefully I'm doing this the right way. So, okay, I'm going to loosen these two bolts, and I'm going to take the caliper off and I'll rest it on something so it doesn't hang off of the brake pipe. So we can see our calipers off, and there's our pads. So I need to take the pads out, and they're going to get replaced in a minute anyway. And then we need to take the brake disc off. So what I think I'll do is I'll take the pads out, and then I'm going to undo it from the back. Hopefully you can see around the back here. These are the two bolts holding on the caliper. There's one here, and the other one is here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to spray them with WD-40 and let that soak for a bit, and then hopefully that will make it easier to undo them. There we go, brake caliper off. So there's the old pads. I know they're not sort of that worn out, but that's the whole part of the restoration, is to sort of replace as much as I can with newer stuff. Okay, so this is interesting. This is the new brake pads. Okay, that's the one with the sensor which goes on the other side, but the one without the sensor is like that. And then these are the old ones. So they look completely different. So I don't think they're going to fit, so I'll probably have to send these back and get whatever these are. That must be the part number on there. Okay, now that the caliper's off, we can take the disc off, which is just held in by these two wheel guides here. So I'll undo those, and then in theory the disc should just pop off. So I've got a 12mm attachment, so I'll try and get these off. Quite loose actually, not as stiff as I thought. to help it stop moving. There we go. So these will just come off, I think. I might need to get the persuader. That noise you can hear is the backing plate scraping against the back of the disc. Right, I think I need the persuader. Here we go. Disc off. What I'll also do while I'm here is give everything a clean up. I don't know if I can get that off. I can leave it in place and give it a clean up there. It does need a good old clean altogether underneath there. I'll try and make it look good before we put everything back together. I've got some WD-40 degreaser, some a scrub and brush and some cloth, so let's give it a go. What do you think? Is this going to work? So previously made a bit of a mess of this bolt here, sort of rounded off, and I've tried to cut it as well with a Dremel, but I was worried about cutting into the screw thread, and then I had the bright idea of using that. So hopefully I can use that, put some mole grips on, heat it up, put some mole grips on, and it will turn to come off. If not, on this side anyway, I'll have to sort of carry on and try and cut it off rather than loosen it the normal way. The other side's untouched, so the tool should come in handy. I've actually hired it for a few days, so it's about €10 a day, which is pretty cheap because I think they cost about €400, which is about the same in dollars and pounds to buy. So hopefully it's going to do the trick. So I've shaped the induction wire first, and because there's no sort of way to put it over the end, I'll have to sort of loop it over first and then connect it up and turn it on. Alright, I'm not sure. I think I'm going to keep it on for about 10 seconds and then we'll take it off. So here goes. So the heat induction tool that I was using before lasted about 10 seconds before it packed up. So what I've done is I've actually bought one of my own now, and it's one that you might have seen anyway on AliExpress, Amazon, or places like that. But it looks exactly the same as the one I was using. It's got all the coils as well, and then one as well that I can use to wrap around the nut, which is perfect. So we'll try this and see if it does the job. Yes! Unbelievable! I cannot believe that it's moving. Oh. Sorry. Unbelievable. But it's moving anyway. I've also counted the screw threads before, so the alignment's going to be okay. Well, not okay, it's going to be as it was. I cannot believe it worked. I was panicking. It's turning now, it's turning. 13. Oh man, there we are. So what I've got left to do now is get the nut off, which should be pretty straightforward. Oh, that was a job and a half. So that's the old one. It's still got the yellow mark on it, which is the manufacturer's mark. So it's the original one from when the car was built. As you can see, the rubber's split. So it's a good job we've taken it off, because I think it would have failed the inspection being like that. Anyway, let's carry on and get the nut off, and then we can put the new one on. So I've learned a hard lesson that way. I should have used the heat inductor right from the start, but I just didn't think I'd be able to get one, or didn't sort of, you know, I don't know. I tried the heat with the blowtorch, but that wasn't enough. But if anyone sort of wants to learn by my mistakes, then don't just try fighting with it, don't try cutting it off, just buy yourself a heat induction tool. Just such a saves such a lot of time and such a lot of hassle. So before I put everything back together, I'm going to give it a bit of a clean up. As you can see, the calipers have already been painted before by one of the previous owners. So I'm going to give that a clean and then just top up the red paint and give it another coat. As you can see on the caliper, another thing, these are Bendix calipers. And the brake pads that I ordered that matched the chassis number for the car were actually the wrong ones. So if you're doing this for the first time like me, you're better off checking what pads you've got first, rather than just ordering them based on the chassis number of the car. But that's experience for you, I suppose. So I'm just going to give them a rub down and then a clean up. So the more I clean it up, the more I can see the red underneath, but it still needs to be repainted, I think. So I'll get it as clean as I can, and then we'll put another coat of red paint on it. We'll give that a clean up before we put it all back together again. Just going to spray it with degreaser. I'm actually using that, in case you're wondering. I've covered up the piston as best as I can. I don't want to get any paint on the rubber or inside it, and I'll just finish spraying off this bit here, and then I'll need to turn it again and do the other side. So I completely destroyed the tie rod end nut when I was trying to get it off with heat, and just rounded off with the spanner, and also I did try and cut it, but it's not usable. So I couldn't get another nut, so I had to buy the whole part just to get the nut, which is a bit silly, but it only cost sort of €10, but as you can see, it's more than I need. I suppose I can keep the part for something else another day. I might need to change that in the future, but it comes with the nut, which is perfect. So I can just use that and put everything back together. So I've got the new nut and the replacement tie rod end. There we go. So exactly the same length as the other one. So I don't have to worry too much about alignment, but obviously I'm going to get it aligned anyway once this is done. I've got a note of how many screw threads there are, so when I put the bolt back on, it goes back on more or less in the same place, and then I can just put the new tie rod end arm on as well. But obviously, like I said, I'm going to get it aligned anyway once it's all done, just to be on the safe side. So I'm going to put that on first. So I'll count the screw threads. Right, let's put the tie rod arm back on. So now we need to put this back into here, and then we're good to go. Okay, let's get this set to the correct torque setting. There we go. That's it. Okay, the last job is to tighten up the jam nut. The first thing I'm going to do is take it for an adjustment anyway, so hopefully it should be straight enough for me to get there. Here's the old disc. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. The scoring's quite bad actually. I think it looks pretty bad. So here's the new ones. So I've got Brembo. Everybody sort of says how good they are, and they do look good, I have to say. So let's get these on. The first thing I'll do is tighten up the backing plate. First bit of the caliper back on. Done it at the best angle for the camera, which is why it might be looking a bit awkward for me. I'm putting this on just to be on the safe side. Start tightening these up now. Okay, so the piston's not going to go back on the caliper as it is, because you can see it's pushed out, so I need to push it back in. But before I do that, what I've done, I've taken the cap off of the brake fluid reservoir, just in case when I push the piston back in, it pushes out any liquid. So that's why I've got the cloth around it. Right, I know there's special tools you can get for this, but I've got a C-clamp or G-clamp, whatever you want to call it. I've got a bit of metal there to go across there when I put it on. So, but you could use obviously the old brake pad to push it back in if you want. Alright, let's try that. Alright, let's see if that goes on now. There we go. Back on. I'm hoping that's not. No, I think we're okay. I thought I'd had a little leak there. Right. So I've got a bit of thread lock. Never happens when Chris Fix is doing it. Yeah, top on now. I've got my bolt back. There we go. Job done. So caliper back on. Disc changed. New pads. And of course the new tie rod arm. Probably won't film the other side because it's just going to be a repeat, but I might do the highlights and the lowlights. Actually what I'll do, I didn't put any thread lock on these, so I'll probably just take those off and put some thread lock on those before I put the wheel back on. I didn't get any spillage from the brake reservoir, brake fluid reservoir, so that's all dry, which is good. So all I've got to do now is the other side, and then once that's done, I need to take it to get the wheels aligned. And then also coming up soon is the annual inspection, to see if I can get it passed. So that's something that's coming up. I don't know if I'll be able to film that for a video. I don't think you can film it going through, but I'll see what I can do, see if I can film some of the process anyway. But that's it for now. So I hope you enjoyed the video. So if you'd like to see more videos like this, then hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe as well. Well, I've got to say I'm pretty chuffed with the way it's turned out. It's taken me longer to do than I thought it would, but it's all been pretty straightforward, apart from that one sort of nut I couldn't undo on the tie rod end. It's all gone pretty smoothly. If you're doing it like me for the first time, then like I said before, check the don't buy sort of like the brake pads before you've taken the caliper off or taken the old pads out, just so you make sure you get the right ones. It doesn't seem to go by the chassis number. Apart from that, nothing else to say really. I'm pretty chuffed with the way it's turned out. I'm really pleased with it, but I've not done it yet, so we'll have to see. Get it back on the floor and then I'll tighten them up.